There's a couple other places we can start to get cost savings. And Microsoft will actually drop in recommendations in their Azure Cost Advisor section. You go in your Azure portal, click on Advisor, and as long as your partner is turned on cost management, you can see this. And you can start to see it'll give you recommendations if you have app services or application gateways or Cosmos DBs. You can go ahead and start to do reservations on a number of these things or start to tier them to a better size, maybe a size that you'll take advantage of. And I could explore for a while here. There's a lot of different tools that you can go through and it'll give you optimization recommendations. And this really goes back to what we were talking about previously of there's a proper way to go do cost management in Azure. The first place to start is to make sure you know what you're going to be using long term, to understand your resources in Azure and how long you think they'll be around. Are you doing some dev tests and it's an environment that may come and go, may change, may resize, or do you have production environments you'll have around for 5 years? Do you need all those servers? Are some of those servers temporary? Are those servers the right size? So we start with, are all the resources we have in Azure long-term? Have we cleaned up any testing we've done in the past? So we know the resources that are there are legitimate and need to stay around, and we have an understanding of how long they're going to be around. The next question is to make sure the right size. If they're the wrong size, sometimes that's really going to cost you. You got a database instance that's way too big, or you've got some configured performance plan on your VPN gateway that's too high. It's really going to cost you a lot. Maybe you've got VMs that are running 2 or 3 times the size they need to be. Well, that's 2 or 3 times the cost. Actually, if it's 3 times the size, then it's 4 times the cost because the cost goes up exponentially by size. So we resize our VMs. Once we're confident of those 2 capabilities, we have the hardware we're going to keep, they're properly sized, then we can really start to look at cost management. Azure Advisor will give you recommendations if it thinks some of your VMs are underutilized, maybe they're too big, it'll give you good data there. It'll also help you look at reservations. It'll help you look at other cost management vehicles. But the advisor sometimes misses things. It doesn't talk about hybrid use benefit. It also isn't very nuanced. It just gives you, hey, if you make all these 3-year reservations, then you're good to go. You'll save a bunch of money. Well, that doesn't always fit the real world of you may not want to commit to 3 years. That's a long time in the digital world to commit to a VM. Maybe you want to go with 1 year. You want to understand your options. You want some flexibility. You want to resize some things. So we go through our process. We make sure all our resources are legit, are the right size, are going to stay around. Then we look at whether we can save money with reservations and hybrid use benefit. And then we start to look at your other resources and what other resources we can resize. The other places you can start to save money is you're also able to start doing reservations on things like hard drives. So let's say you've got a 2 terabyte drive on a server. You've got one of those. That's, I just put in 10. One of those is $230 a month. You can actually buy reservations on those, cut that price in about half, about 40% off, and say, yes, I'm going to use this 2 terabyte premium storage disk for the next year. I'll commit to a year of it. They'll cut that cost in half. So lots of options when you really want to dial in your cost savings. It's complex, it's intimidating, but once you're comfortable with it, it's not that hard to kind of go in here and navigate this. And we'd love to sit down with you and really talk through the options you have for getting to that better pricing. There is a final way you can adjust your costs on Azure VMs. And that is you can run them in a way where you could turn them on and off based on how they're needed or resize them based on how they're needed. An example of that might be maybe you have some high-end computational jobs that run for the last week of the month to do end of month in your accounting solution. And that server needs 3 or 4 times the horsepower for that 1 week of the month. But the rest of the month, it's really low level and it's just running basic queries and running basic reporting. You can actually schedule that resizing. So you don't have to pay for that 4 times larger VM for the 3 weeks of the month you're not using it. You schedule that resize overnight. It resizes to a bigger size. It reboots, comes back up. For the week where you need the horsepower, you're running at that higher horsepower. Then you turn it back off, automatically resize it back to the smaller size once your week of end of month resizing is done. That could save you a ton of money on the process of running those VMs. The same is true of Azure Virtual Desktop. You've got a bunch of Azure Virtual Desktop machines. Maybe you have users who are only on them for 5 or 6 hours a day. You can have those VMs turn off after hours. And if they're not running, then Azure's not charging you for them if they're properly deallocated. You can automate this. There's a couple ways to automate that, either on a schedule based on workload or based on triggers. When the VM hasn't been used for an hour, turn it off. And then you can even use the Microsoft Windows app to trigger the server to start when somebody's ready to log in. So there's a lot of ways we can get to an even higher cost savings on low utilization AVD boxes. And there's a couple third-party tools we can leverage that can help orchestrate that as well. So lots of ways we can help you save money.